Welcome to the Kinjaz PodKast. Here we will discuss dance, life, and whatever the we want.
Welcome back to the Kinjaz PodKast, Movement in the Shadows. We are your host, Ben.
You got Mike Fell?
I think I forgot to do that in the last one.
That's okay.
It's all good. People know who we are, and they're watching us on video now. So if you guys aren't on our YouTube, subscribe and watch this on YouTube if that's how you get your podcast.
Hey.
Guys, we have somebody really dope in the house today. Not really a dancer, right? Well, I mean, kind of ish sometimes. Writer, actor, director, Justin Chon is in the house.
Hey.
This guy has done a lot of stuff, man. You're putting Asian American males on the map.
Let's
dude.
go.
And
Trying.
it's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
And I know people have been, pushing that for a long time, but man, I mean, from you might recognize him from the Twilight series to 21 and Over to you recently directed the movie Gook. And I know you're working on some dope projects right now too, man. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure. So we call this thing Movement in the Shadows. So it's like, I mean, straight up just really your story, right? And however you want to tell it. But we like to get into the stuff that people aren't going to get from like a soundbite form. Probably not going to get it off of your Instagram. I mean, like in order for us to do the things that we do, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of just stuff that years and years of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what this is, man. So for the sake of the listener, give us like brief history, like, where you from, where you grew up and all that stuff.
So I was born in Garden Grove. Grew up mostly in Irvine, 2 years in Chula Vista, which is basically like Tijuana.
Nice.
But mostly in Irvine. And went to USC for business. Started acting 2 years into school. After I graduated, decided I didn't want to be a financial consultant. So I started acting and then worked my way up from the very, very bottom, being an extra. That's how I did extra work for like 2 years to get my SAG card. And then, little by little, step by step, did like one line here in a show, co-star, guest star, film, and just have been steadily moving up the ranks. And then about 6 years ago, I always made short films, but like 6 years ago, decided to transition into writing and directing.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. So as a child, like, was acting, directing a dream as like a childhood dream, or was that like something you just found later?
It wasn't a possibility. It wasn't even within like, I remember when I was a kid, I had this friend named Scott Nakanishi, and I was over at his house, and he had like the cool channels, he had like HBO and stuff like that. And
the cool channels. Okay, I get what you're saying.
And I remember like there was like a stand-up special, and there was this comedian, and he was doing like a thing, and he was like, I remember specifically saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do that when I grow up," and I was like, "Yeah, right. It's not possible." And it just wasn't even like a thing. But no, so it wasn't like really something I thought was even possible until you just like go for it. Yeah.
What was there a moment where you had that like go for it sort of push?
I was always like the 2 year man, where it was like after college was always like, okay, I'll give it 2 years. And then I would get just enough to be like, okay, 2 more years. And just, but then after like 10 years or so, you're like, okay, well, I think this is my profession.
Yeah.
I think that's like life in general, though. I think tricking yourself into making things digestible for yourself is, at least for me, been how I've been able to like continue to go forward. Like when you're running like long distance and you go, okay, just get to that fire hydrant. But then you run past it and you go, okay, no, just like, I'm still running, so might as well get to that light post. And that's kind of because that seems less daunting. So like I reach a goal and then like, okay, maybe a little bit further, and that's kind of, I think, how I ended up getting started and then continuing to go.
Yeah. So you did go to college, right? You went to school for business.
Yeah.
Did you finish?
Yes, I did.
Tight. And then so
Congrats.
was acting. Yeah, that's big. That's
Yeah.
huge by itself. Was acting while you were in school too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would go, after I started acting, I enrolled in like a 2-year program outside of school. So I scheduled all my classes to be in the morning, and then like in the afternoon I would go rehearse or go to class.
Yeah.
So I was going basically, school all day.
Yeah.
Or like, but that's the thing is like, you guys are dancers and stuff, and it seems like everybody was dancing while they're in school. And once we find something we love, we just make it work.
Yeah. Were your parents supportive of like the whole acting thing?
Yeah, my parents, I was lucky because my parents never really, they didn't even pressure me to go to college, but
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what else to do. When I majored in business, it was because I just didn't know what else there was that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the goal with business though? Were you just trying to be like, I just want to get my MBA, or like just?
Yeah, it was just like a floating thing.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I'll get a job, and then hopefully make some good money, be able to go on some vacation.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't this fully thought out plan, like you wanted to open up a specific type of business? or
No,
anything
there
like
was no
that?
vision, no
Got
purpose. I was just coasting. Yeah.
So from at what point then was acting the like, forget all this school business stuff, I'm gonna just focus on this craft?
Well, once I joined the school, I was like, this is freaking amazing. It's like that sort of artistic high you get. And me specifically, I was doing this exercise in class. My foundation was Meisner, which is just very naturalistic acting, a lot of listening and responding, and we were doing a lot of improv, dramatic improv, and I was doing this improv where they gave me like a time limit, like, oh yeah, you have like 2 minutes, your grandma's gonna die, what do you have to say to her? Like, you have to tell her the last things you want to say. And I was talking to her, I had my back to the class, and I started talking, and naturally, just getting that mindset and imagining these things emotionally, I just broke down. I started crying, and I remember being really embarrassed, and then I turned around and the entire class started like clapping for me.
Wow.
And, being
wild.
Asian though, like, we're taught to never cry.
Right,
I mean, we're taught to
right.
like swallow our feelings and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I was just like, wow, I'm getting like applauded. I'm getting like praise for being, emotionally honest.
Yeah.
That's cathartic.
Right.
And that's when I was hooked. And after that point, I was like, okay, I really enjoy doing this. I don't know if it can be a job, but once I graduated college, I figured if I can just make enough to get by, it'd be a pretty great life, a worthwhile endeavor to search for truth and be an artist. But yeah, I mean, I think that's when I fully committed, is after college. But it was always like, again, the 2-year plan. I was like,
Yeah.
I'd give myself 2 years, and then after a while, it's like, okay, let's be real. What else would I do? What else can I do? And it was kind of tricking myself into not having any other option. But yeah, it's like anything worthwhile doing in life is scary.
Totally.
Yeah.
What was like your, I guess, first break into, maybe job wise, that you felt like, yo, I could do this, and I can make a living off of it?
I mean, even just doing extra work, you get paid like $100 a day. That's still pretty good.
So you can survive off of that.
Yeah.
You get fed and everything.
Yeah, you
Craft
get fed. Yeah,
services,
they
yeah.
feed you and stuff. But it was just being there on set, even as an extra, was exhilarating. I remember I was in this one thing. Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Aniston were in a movie called like Rumor Has It or something. And I was in the background, and then one of the PAs or the production assistants were like, okay, you come with me. And they take me to where they were shooting, and I was pretty close to the actors. And I was like, oh, fuck. So like, they're like, you sit here. And I'm like, cool. So I sit down, and I'm like looking at the camera, and they're just like right there. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
This is like for real. And then like you know, they're doing the scene and like they're about to do a scene. They're all slayed and stuff, and they're like, okay, someone comes and like gives me a newspaper. Okay, you're an extra. You're gonna be reading the newspaper in the background. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And then some motherfucker like walked by and put a newspaper over my head, and he's like, you're sleeping, and like put a newspaper over my face.
What?
But I was like,
no.
I was still stoked.
Yeah,
I was like, shit.
It's like, I'm that guy that's sleeping under the paper.
Yeah, but that's like, I think that is, it was those small victories along the way that like was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I got that little victory right there. Okay, and then, you know, but the biggest thing was I always created my own opportunities. I always never took no for an answer. So even like my first pilot audition, you know, I went and I got referred by, you know, a theater company, and I was so green, I choked really bad. And then I found, and they were like, you know, they were all talking to me like, because I guess, you know, the theater company talked me up. I choked. Then they couldn't find the character, so they did an open call. I went back, and then they were like, what are you doing back here? You already
like you again.
It's not how it works, you know. Like it's my MO was always like 30 seconds. Just give me 30 seconds. If I suck, you can kick me out. Just give me 30 seconds. And they'd be like, all right, go for it. And then I was a little bit better, but still shit. And they're like, okay, good effort, but like, you know, here's some notes, you know, blah blah blah. And then those casting directors called me back. They remembered me, and then they called me back and like gave me a part, like a one-liner in this TV show. And like, it's always constantly been like that. Like just pushing and pushing till like somebody says yes, but not having any like enough pride to be like, or, you know, having enough humility to know that like no one's gonna hand it to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's I think that's the biggest thing these days is like, you know, you guys teach a lot of kids, and they see the finished product. I mean, you look at that screen right there. It's like that's decades of work of precision, like constant drilling. And but people want the shortcut, and the answer is there's no shortcut.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time too, where you know, like I was talking about earlier, like when we teach classes and you know, afterwards students come up and they have 20 questions that they want to ask, and they want a good answer every time. And it's not that we don't want to give it, it's like, I just don't have the time to unpack that, because I know how loaded that question is. And a lot of it has to do with like, how do I do what you're doing? How did you get here? What advice can you give me right now that's going to help me to be able to do what you're doing? And there's no really there's no shortcut way to do it. It's just the time, it's the hours to the days to the months and the years and the decades that that's the only way that you're gonna get good. And sure, you'll have those prodigies, you know, or, you know, out of the woodworks, like, how long you been doing this? Like a year. It's like, what the freak? Like, you know what I mean? Like, sure, you'll get those kids here and there, but that's not the common tale, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what's dope with any craft, whether it's dance, acting, writing, whatever. You got to put in those you know,
and that's
hours.
the thing is what you're saying with the questions is like, you know, finding out that answer is not the work. It's part of the work, but like, that's exactly what I think it is like the search for those answers. And the difficulty to figure that out is, I think, part of the process. You know, I don't know, like, you know, I'm doing a lot of writing now, and like, you know, I asked, I did a film, you know, the 21 Over, the guys who wrote Hangover directed that. And, you know, like, they're really gracious to me, and I asked one of them, I was like, hey, so like, you know, I'm starting to write and stuff, like, how do I get better? And they're like, write every day. And I'm like, no, but like, you know, and you know, there wasn't really anything simple about it. He's just like, no, he's got to write every day. And I'm like, but what about structure? What about like character development? Write every day, because you'll figure it. I mean, you're gonna ask those questions, but through the act of doing, you'll slowly find the answer. Which is like, it's a hard pill to swallow though, man. It is
because the work is not the glamorous part. The work is the stuff that you look you suck during the process of the work, especially when you're trying to figure something out. You know what I mean? Like if you don't know how to do something, and even if you're hours at it, you're gonna for hours suck. You know what I mean? Like if I'm trying to pick up a new dance style that I'm learning for the first time, hours and hours of it is just gonna look like trash. You know what I mean? Because that's not the glamorous part, you know. But the finished product, like you're saying, is that after you put in those hours and hours and hours, and you compile all that, your day one and like your day 100 is gonna look very different.
So
you know
different,
what I mean? And then, you know, obviously beyond that. So yeah, man, I definitely could relate, and I appreciate your view towards that, because I mean, part of the work is finding out the information, like what do I need to do, and then the other part of it is put in the work that you can't fabricate, you can't fake that. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Yeah. So out of all that though, so what would you say was like your sort of breakthrough role or opportunity that where you're like, yo, I'm actually kind of creating a name for myself? Or
But see, that's the thing, is like, I don't think there's one. You know, it's like, I mean, you guys know this, you know, being on a huge television show, you think like, oh, we're going to be on the show, it's a national show and it's going to go worldwide. This is it.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you're like, wait a minute. That's life.
Yeah.
That's because I think people think there's like, they always think there's a destination. There's no destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you, the destination is just, it's just the process. It's just the journey, and the destination, those are just like signposts along the way, but you're still, there's no end all be all, because if you do get that, you're still gonna be unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, I know you guys know that, like, so for me, it hasn't ever been one thing. And even when it was like, oh, this is gonna be it never worked out that way, where I was like, oh, now I've arrived, or whatever. And and for me, I've had kind of a lot of misses where I thought it was this, whatever the thing at that moment was going to be, like the thing that was to blow me up, but I'm glad it didn't, because it really gave me a lot of perspective. And the people kind of that it did blow up for, they're a lot weaker. They're a lot more like mentally not as, you know, resilient, because they think that like it should always be that way. And then they start to do all this, you know, it makes their character, you know, they go awry for a while, especially like with celebrity kind of shit. Like that's not natural. And if that is your end goal, is to like be famous or make money, we all know that's empty. But the people who kind of get it too quick, they don't realize that like that was never what they really wanted. Ever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you guys have had to. I mean, you've had to reinvent yourself like many times.
Yeah.
But that's just. That's just part of it. And that's a journey, you know. And I think that, like, especially for young people, they think, oh, once I get this, once I do that, once I get on that show, once I win this competition, whatever, like life will be different. Yeah, it might be. But
for that pocket of time.
Yeah. But unless like, you know, we understand like our reason for doing it, the why. We're just gonna be unhappy as shit. Yeah,
man. I love everything you're saying, and this is exactly how we think. And sometimes I try to think to myself, I'm like, man, if I always say like, oh, when young people think this way, and I was like, well, once upon a time, which was not that long ago, I was a guy who thought that way. So it's not like to shame anybody who is young that may think that, oh, if I were to achieve this, then my life would be so much better. I think there's nothing wrong with that, because I think that's where it starts. You know, you start because your hunger and your ambition for the thing that you love will push you to like be that go-getter, right? And then you may achieve some of those things, and then like the reason why, you know, the older way of viewing things or the way that we're talking is because we've experienced like kind of an array from you know, success to tons of failure to a little bit of success to more failure, you know, and then you learn through that process. It's your willingness to just withstand, have that grit to just be like, I'm not gonna quit because I really love this thing, or I'm really believing in this thing as something bigger than fame and numbers and money and all that, because we know, like you just said, those things don't fulfill, because once you've achieved it, that's just, it's gone. And then now everyone's like, so what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Because I mean, the viewing audience is, they're gonna applaud you for what you did, and then the moment you stop doing stuff, is like, wait, who are you again? You know? So I get it, man. Like when you talk about the whole celebrity thing, when you're constantly chasing that fame and the recognition of just kind of being hype in the moment, that stuff dies out quick, man. And I think that, that's why I love a platform like this. Like podcasting is something that, you know, such a random thing for a dance brand to be like, what, you guys have a podcast? What are you guys just talking about dance all day? You know? like yes, and like, and a whole lot of no. You know, it's you know, we talk about dance being our trade. People most know us for our product is the dance, right? But you know, we're here like at the Kinjaz Dojo to we're working on all sorts of different things that, you know, maybe stem from dance, but the dance is not the end all be all sort of thing too. So even for somebody like yourself, like, I mean, when I first met you, I felt like it was kind of at a time where you were still, not to say you're not grinding now, but like I saw the grind then. I remember being in the studio with you, like teaching you some steps, and I was teaching you like a hat trick. You know, and like, you know, and look at where you're at now, where you're, dude, man, like the stuff that you're pushing right now, writing and directing, producing, like things that, like real life stories, things that not only mean something to you, but the cultural climate of even what we're living in now, like these stories that haven't been told but are so real, and that they've existed forever. It's just we haven't had anyone to kind of have that opportunity to kind of push those stories out there. So man, much respect to you.
Thank you.
You know, for being that kind of a figure and a role model to, you know, for the kids that are trying to, you know, come up in acting and all that stuff right now.
I think that's a secret sauce though, like, because I can tell, you know, from you guys' brand and like what you guys do, it's more than just dance, you know, and it's a philosophy. And, you know, even teaching classes, like that's like you're giving back and everything. And I think that's the secret sauce really is, you know, here's the thing is, reaching for that thing that you want is a good thing. I mean, you got to set goals, because if you don't have like these markers for yourself and, you know, things to strive for, like you'll never get anywhere. So like setting specific goals is important, but the secret sauce is, you know, and this takes, I think, years to understand because of ego and sort of like narcissism, and like those aren't even necessarily bad things, but like it takes a second. But when you realize whatever you're doing, if it's for somebody else, there's a lot more value in it. When it's for you, just strictly yourself or your own glory, it's empty. You know, and I could, you know, it's so funny because like when I could go help somebody or whatever, and if I didn't want to let them down, I'd probably work really hard to try to do it for them. But then after I get it done, I feel so proud, and I feel so like, you know, that's kind of how I approach filmmaking and writing, is like, you know, the things I look for and the things I want to make. There's only so many projects I can write by myself, right? You know, and then it's like, how do I tell someone else's story? How do I do it justice? Why am I telling it? Like, what am I trying to accomplish by saying? What do I want the world to know, you know, about us and about our community? But it's not, it's for me, but it's also like for, you know, everybody else, you know, like that's like, you know, I just directed this new project, right? And we're doing post-production on out, and every time I've screened it, it's about a brother and sister and just a simple relationship, and their dad is dying, whatever, and kind of a fucked up situation. And I've been screening it for people, and there's been so many people have come up to me and just like, that I never expected to have like a fucked up family or whatever, and be really honest with me, like, wow, that film hit me because my dad did this, or my mom was like this. And I'm like, damn, like people who would never, because, you know, there's like this professional facade, they would never come up to me and tell me that kind of information.
Right.
But through the communication of art, that conversation is possible.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
like, I think that's the secret sauce is like, if there's a bigger thing, bigger than yourself, worth fighting for, it all of a sudden becomes much more fulfilling rather than just being like, I got this, I did that, cool. Like, we all know, you go home and I screen a movie, I just premiere it, it goes to like a festival or whatever, it premieres in a theater. Then afterward you go drink or whatever, and then you go home, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That happened, but what? That was cool. You know?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's not to downplay. I mean, getting placement in things like Sundance and stuff like that. It's huge. I mean, that's like every actor, filmmaker, writer's dream is to be in a place where so many reputable pieces of work have been featured in places like that. So got a point to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely,
props to that. That's huge. And like, so the projects like Gook to Miss Purple's that you're recently, right?
There's a new one.
And you crowdfunded both of those?
Crowdfunded the post-production on both of them.
Crazy.
That's the thing is, we all grew up not being included, and I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not asking for permission. I'm just showing up and being like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And here it is. Hopefully I'm making product that's undeniable. And do you guys see that like interview with Machine Gun Kelly on The Breakfast Club?
Was he talking about the whole Eminem beef?
Yeah, he was talking about the Eminem thing, and like, I'm not like really like the biggest MGK fan or anything.
Yeah.
But I liked his attitude. Like, he went on the show and he's like, listen, I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
I've and like, no one gave me anything. Like, actually, people tried to stop me, but I'm here.
Yep.
And I'm still here, and I'm gonna be here tomorrow. And like, I was like, good for him, man, because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just continue to put out great stuff until it's undeniable. It's like, you can't say, my work speaks for itself.
Totally.
And I mean, you guys are like a living embodiment of that. You guys go on like all these television shows, and it's just like fucking fire. And like, people can't say like, what are they gonna say? Like, how can they say anything bad about it? Like, they watched, they watch what you do.
Yeah.
That's that.
Wow, thank you, man. No, I mean, like, I get it though. It's because we live in this culture where it's a constant battle, because there's this, in order to be successful in this entertainment world, it's all content driven. So like, you're racked up in your brain of like, how do I keep putting out stuff? And everybody's human. Like, who in the world doesn't get a creative block or not really feeling inspired? But it's like, well, our livelihood is to keep putting stuff out. So not everything's gonna be a hitter. Not everything's gonna get praised. And we speaking about MGK and Eminem. I mean, obviously, me growing up the era like that we grew up in, I'm a huge Eminem fan. So I'm still gonna be like, yo, Eminem, greatest of all time, smashed, right? But then I gotta give a guy like MGK props. Like, yo, you went toes with the greatest of all time, and you definitely stood your ground, and you're being honest about it. You're gonna even admit like, yo, this fool's the greatest. Like, what do you expect? But I'm here too. Like you said, I'm undeniable. And no one's gonna be able to look at me and be like, yo, you're garbage, because you're not. Like, otherwise someone like Eminem wouldn't give a crap about like going at you. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. Like, I think that's something that's really important for our listening audience. I mean, majority of our listening audience probably like younger, aspiring dancers and stuff like that. That's obviously who we can kind of naturally speak to. But like, the point of something even like this is to open up an opportunity and just the potential to either talk to that same kid or to speak to somebody new that had no idea about it. And that's why we love bringing on people that don't dance. You know what I mean? Like, some of my favorite conversations with people and the most enlightening ones are the people that don't do the thing that I do or that we do, So, but it's sharing that experience of like how how did you make it? How did you not quit? You know what I mean? And what's driving you to keep going in this way? You know what I mean?
It's like the age-old artistic dilemma. You know, like the crazy thing about art is like it comes from like a passionate need, a soulful need, but we all need to make money, right? And that is where it gets difficult between commerce and art. And the thing is but that's not new. That's been like since the dawn of man, like they're drawing on caves or whatever, and like to make money from art is, you know, you look at like my wife likes fine art, right? And I used to go to these galleries and be like, what the, like, I don't fucking like, you know, what is this shit?
Yeah.
But until like I was in Amsterdam and I went to the Van Gogh museum by myself. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna check this out. I'm here by myself, and I started looking at all the paintings and stuff. And Van Gogh did a lot of personal like portraits. I'm like, why the fuck did he do so many self-portraits? And I'm reading on the placards. I never read those little things. I'm like, just look at it. Oh, cool. I was reading it and I'm like, oh, dude, back then, that's how they made money, is you did portraits for other people. That's how you got commissioned to paint other people. That's how you make money. That's like us doing a commercial or whatever, right? So his brother was basically his manager and like was like, you got to get better at it. So he practiced a little bit drawing himself, but he couldn't help like drawing fucked up versions of himself because that was his artistic thing. And go figure, like during his lifetime, he died penniless, man. And like, but like after he died, the things that made him famous wasn't the portraits of other people.
Right.
It was the stuff that he did for himself, like the flowers and all that stuff. And, you know, even thinking about like Monet, Manet, and, you know, that whole crew in France during that time, they were like basically indie painters.
Right.
Like back then, you were like painting architecture or scenic stuff, or like stuff that like people wanted to see. They were like the independent filmmakers of their time because they were drawing prostitutes. People were like, yo, no one wants to buy that shit. But they were like, no, but this is what we want to do. This is coming for our passion. And guess what? They're in the galleries hundreds of years later.
Right.
And the people who were doing like the thing that was popular at the time, no one knows who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
But then at the time and here's the other dirty secret about art though. There's a lot of like really rich people who have the luxury to do it. Like, and if you don't have money and you want to do art, you just have to work 10 times harder.
Yep.
You just have to sacrifice more. But life, and that is the first thing everybody must understand, is life was never fair. It was never supposed to be fair. Even if you're rich, it's not fair. Like you have your own set of problems, but like that is the thing, is like you can complain or you can do. And you know, me as an indie filmmaker, like I can complain about all the resources I don't have, and we're talking about Kickstarter or whatever, or I can figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good, man. I mean, I love so many things you just said. I mean, yeah, the art that gets remembered, you know, years later, you know, people say like, oh, you're so not appreciated in your time. And like you talking about these painters that in the time, that's not what was popular. That wasn't the pop culture trendy stuff. It was the countercultural disruptive stuff that they were doing then, that years later, now we're looking at like, yo, like what? He was doing that in a time where no one else was doing that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that still stays true to this day. The things that, the stories that are told that are not glamorous, the stuff that's like, we're going to keep that one, you know, in the closet. It's like, no, let's bring that out of the closet because I think people need to know about this because this is actually real and people are really experiencing these things and suffering from these things, and telling that real story. And I think to do it in a way where you're being so honest from even how you want to create it and get the story told, to like put out like a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding, letting people know like, guys, I have this story I want to tell, but I need help. And it's a real thing. The studios don't care about stuff like this. That's the pop cultural, the you know what I'm saying? Like this is not a blockbuster, but this is a real story. Like you guys are going to appreciate this. Trust me. from even this Kinjaz dojo, we crowdfunded this thing. It wasn't like we're freaking ballers and we're like, yo, let's just open up a dance studio. It's like, no. After we lost the TV show, we asked people to be like, guys, if we were to have won that show, we were to open up a studio. That's what we wanted to do. So help us, because this is what we believe in. Yeah. And people came out the woodworks to like fully fund it and then some. You know, that's how we opened this up. So like, man, like to have that approach where voices need to be heard, and I mean, I think every artist really pushes that, like, this voice is gonna get heard regardless. You know, like whether I do it myself or someone else is gonna help me, it's gonna get out there. You know what I'm saying? So I think what you're doing with, like, you know, say films like Gook and Miss Purple, man, like it makes me like a fan already before it's out, and then obviously when it's out, like, I just want to campaign for you. It's like, yo, guys, this thing, you don't even understand what it took for something like this to be told. And it's not just for the sake of like, go support the homies or whatever. It's more of like, this is really something that needs to be out there. These are the types of countercultural disruptive things that are happening now that people made, like studios aren't like, there's no money in that. You know what I mean?
But, you know, I think we're all doing it in our respected discipline.
Sure.
And that was the thing about, like, you know, dance, you know, when it was like the whole ABDC, all that stuff is like, I think it was really the first time the country saw cool Asians. And it was like, before that, they're like, no, you can't dance. But we knew, like, you know, like in junior high, like, there's always that like Filipino kid that can do like flare after flare. Like, what?
You got them high school flares, dude. I don't know, no top rocks, just come out, bust out
just only
your
power
4
moves.
flares and you're done. You blow it up, you're out.
But we always knew, like, our community had swagger, and we could, you know, we can do these things. But like, I felt like that dance thing was such a opening of the gates for people to be exposed to a different type of Asian that wasn't represented for the longest time. It was always like, you know, kung fu and all that, but like, we were doing something that was cool. And I think that was a good, you know, eye opener for like the country. And then it was like, now it's like so normal. Like people aren't even like batting an eye anymore. They're like, that's just like, like, you know, Asian people can dance. But like 15 years ago, they're like, nah, like, who are these bows? Like, you know, you come out and they're like, and then they're like, oh my God, they're so surprised. You're like, why are you surprised? You know, and that's, but we're all doing it in our respective sort of things. Right now, for me, you know, we have the Justin Lins, we have the James Wan, we have the John Chus. They're doing that, man, and they do it well. I'm best served in the indie space at this moment to tell stories that are much more, you know, just the other half, right? The other half of our community, which is not rich, which is people who are struggling or whatever, and also that it's just very honest depiction, authentic depictions of our community. Just relationships, just stories about our families. Not like, it doesn't need to be some hook. It doesn't need to be some like heist, you know, like it's just like, dude, a brother and sister, like getting ready for their dad to die, or like, because every year at Sundance or whatever, or South by Southwest or Tribeca, there's like tons of white films that they're allowed to tell those stories that are just simple like that, like kitchen sink dramas. Well, we need our programming as well, you know, and that's where I think I'm the best served right now. And I know I can do it. I know I'm capable of doing it. So like, that's my discipline right now. But, you know, it's like not without doubts.
Sure.
We all wake up every day and be like, fuck, what are we doing? You know? Yeah, man.
That's good, man. I mean, well, like, you touched on films like, okay, like a Crazy Rich Asians, Searching. Great for the culture, great for Asians in Hollywood. And I mean, it's what's cool to me about, like, say Crazy Rich Asians, right? Like, it's more of a rom-com versus like a Joy Luck Club, where we gotta show the Asian you know, struggle to immigrating from Asia and growing up as a woman. Like, so it's like a lot of drama, which is a real story. Great. But like this, to be honest, in I don't know how long, I don't even remember the first Asian American comedy rom-com that I feel like was like blown up as like the #1 movie in America and all that kind of stuff. And then a movie like Searching, where John Cho is the lead, but it's not about this Asian experience. It's just like, it's a suspense thriller with this dude who just happens to be Asian, know? So I'm like, so like we're actually getting cast in roles that are not so cultural specific. Like it's an Asian American story, or it's an Asian experience, so we have to cast an all Asian cast or whatever.
Yeah.
So for you, I'm sure growing up within the this industry, Hollywood in particular, I'm sure you've dealt with all sorts of struggles, roadblocks, hurdles, and stuff. What are your thoughts towards everything that you've experienced to how you see it, or the trends kind of moving now in Hollywood?
I think it's improved tremendously. I mean, we cannot deny that. We have a long way to go, but like, I mean, I see so many more Asian faces. Like, it's not even like, it's not that shocking anymore. Before it was like, oh, there's an Asian dude in here. Like, it was such a big deal. Mm-hmm. Now it's like you see them all over, right? Yeah. And that's awesome. Now, what I'm looking for my Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone. I'm looking for my Timothée Chalamet. I'm looking for our communities that. Mm-hmm. And I wanna cater a film to them, to make them shine, and I want to put them on the map, and I want to unleash it to the industry and be like, yo, this person's a force. I think we need that. Like we still don't have that just tour de force, actor like a Joaquin Phoenix or a Daniel Day-Lewis. I just don't see it yet. And like I'm constantly searching, and that's one of my agendas is like putting someone on the map like that, because that really just also covers all our bases, right? We did a rom-com that's awesome, and like not everybody wants to watch a rom-com.
Sure. Yeah.
We should support it because it's important, but like, I'm not like dying. That's not my genre, right? But things that have like a profound effect, like, I just saw a Japanese movie called Shoplifters yesterday. One can. God damn, that movie was like deep to like the nth degree. It was just so profound, and I felt like I walked out of the theater understanding humanity a little bit more. And like those kind of things turn me on. Doesn't need to turn everybody on, but that's where I'm at right now. But I think that is, everybody has their own agenda, and that's why like that's why you said like, a lot of people come up to you and ask you questions, you're like, I don't even know how to unpack that. Because my journey is not your journey.
Exactly.
And why you do things is different from why I do things. So to say like just a blanket like answer to questions is, I think you're right in being like, hey, not being able to really answer it, because it could be destructive too. Because it's like, it might not be tailor fit to that person, and you just don't have the time at the time. But like people ask me all the time, like I always ask like, but why do you want to do it? They say, oh, I want to write. Well, why do you want to write? They always give me like this like prefabbed like statement. Oh, I want to represent our community, blah blah blah. I'm like, cool, but why? Like, because growing up, I got bullied. So what is the story you want to tell? Well, I want to tell the story about like, some kid, gets, worked at his parents, whatever. And I'm like, and what are you expecting to accomplish from that? And I keep asking the next question. I think that's what it's about. It's like, what is the next question? I should be asking the questions. Not them. I should. Okay, what do you want to do? Okay, I'm gonna ask you next question. I'm gonna ask you next. And if we're like 20 questions down,
you just help them write the story.
then maybe I'm like, okay, maybe there's a shot here.
Again, man, there's really nothing wrong with being that kid on, like, let's call that the defensive. Like, you know, you're constantly coming at me with why, so I feel like I have to defend myself. You're like,
Yeah.
well, because of da 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 da, you know, like, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I think without you realizing when you're kind of feeling like, yo, I need to defend myself, or I don't know, like, I don't know why. It's okay. It's okay to not know why.
Yeah.
Because now you know, and you realize, wow, I got to think a lot more about this before I realize, or I think that I must do this, or I must do that, because, no one maybe, we're not instinctually programmed to think that the things that we want are shallow. We all think that, like, the thing that I want to do, the world needs it. You know what I'm saying? Like really, you know. And again, it's nothing bad with that, but to have somebody, you know, ask you why, to force you to kind of dig down this rabbit hole of, like, let's see how deep this hole actually goes, or whether it just stops here, you know? And even if you realize that it stops at a shallow place, it's okay, because that's your place for you to grow for yourself. It's either one, you can quit and be like, yeah, maybe I'm not really into this. Maybe I'm not cut out for this thing, right? I mean, shoot, I wanted to be a freaking pop star when, you know, at some point. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be a K-pop star, because I was like, yo, that looks so fun. You know? And I even went kind of the distance to, like, go get a talent scout and yada, 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 and even do an audition.
Whoa.
But, like, it wasn't this burning passion where I was like, I'm not going to take this no as a no. Like, I'm going to keep going. I was like, nah, I don't think it's for me. And I you know? And because I realized that my desire for it only went so deep. But for the person who was really trying to figure out what they really want to do, ask yourself those whys. And I think, you know, for myself, and I don't know, you know, I'd love to know from your story too, like, getting mentors, people that you look up to, in whether it's in that industry that you're trying to break, or in a completely different industry, or just has some other sort of life experience, having people to pour into you in ways that will help you think, because everything starts up here, you know what I'm saying? You have to have your thought processes in order and have them straight, so that you can even have a plan of attack, you know? And a lot of times that comes from the person to just constantly ask you why. What's that going to accomplish? What's your end goal? Okay, let's say you do that. Like, what's that going to do? And it's not to just be a jerk and just be annoying about it, but it's really like, I'm trying to help you understand for yourself what you want, right? So for yourself, though, was there anybody like that to kind of mentor you, to kind of get you to where you're at now?
I always am looking for mentors. It's one thing that I feel like we lack in our community, is like the willingness to pull somebody else up.
Right.
You know? And I'm always searching for answers. I'm always searching for people who can guide me. But it's been hard, you know, to be honest. Like, it's been hard to find people who are willing to be generous with their information. That's okay, you know, because that's my job.
Right.
But I'm always bugging the shit out of a lot of people. You know, like, for example, just even with acting or something like, you know, there's the actor C.S. Lee. Do you know him? He was on Dexter.
Okay, yeah.
He's a Yale drama school graduate, and you know, he has this awesome story about how, like, no one would cast him in a play during graduate school, so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do my own production of Romeo and Juliet, and I'm gonna be Romeo. And I was like, you know, I've always looked up to him as an actor, because I don't think people understand how good of an actor he is. But if you have a trained eye, you know. And I've always asked him, like, technical stuff and whatever, and he's really, like, you know, I'll be like, hey, can we meet up for lunch on Sunday? And, like, he'll show up, like, super hungover or whatever. But I'm thankful he even came, you know, and gave me whatever information he could. And, you know, even this past film, before I picture locked the film, he came over and watched a cut, gave me his 2 cents. And,
dope.
You know, I just did a film with Wayne Wang. He directed Joy Luck Club. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I, like, while we shoot this film, I kind of, like, ask you questions and I shadow you? And he's like, absolutely. And I asked him to write I asked him to read Miss Purple. He did and gave me notes, great notes. But I'm not scared to ask. You know, it's just. But when they say no, I'm also not scared to be persistent and like bug the shit out of them.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I respect that. Like I respect when like there's been kids that like have bugged the shit out of me. I respect that though, because enough times but you know, you gotta have a little bit of tact, you know, like, but you know, there's certain kids who are just charming or whatever, and like they asked a bunch of times, and I love to mentor because I didn't get that, and at least if I have something to do with it, like I'd like to, you know, I'd like to have somebody stand on my shoulders, you know, and it's also the reason I want to discover somebody, because I want to like help somebody get over the wall, get over the other side, and then maybe they'll throw a rope over for me to get over too. But like that's how it works for all of us, you know, like just like we cross promote all our stuff, and you know, through each discipline, like it's synergistic. It's not like, and I think that's the problem is, not going to generalize and say it's like an older generational thing because they'll get pissed at me. But I think it was a different time for the generation above us.
Right.
And there's this idea that like success is finite, that like there's only so much to go around. We all know that's not true.
Yeah.
We all can have it.
For sure.
But there's this weird way of thinking, you know, that certain people think that like, no, if you get this job or you get this role or you get this show, that there's not going to be anything left for me. And we all know that's not true.
Yeah. Speak on it, man. Yeah, dude, that's so true. It's this, and I think it's this, when something is brand new, you know, it doesn't have to be brand new, but like, for whatever reason, we're competitive, right? We compete for, you know, jobs, to relationships, to girls, to everything, right? And no one is very vocal about the fact that they're competitive in that way, because it's never glamorized either. It's never looked at as a positive thing. And, you know, but like when we look at any sort of industry, right? And I would say one of the most like cutthroat industries, let's say hip hop, right? Hip hop is like, in the DNA of the culture is competition, you know what I mean? And calling people out, and you know, if someone's biting your style, you call them out and you roast them, and it's just so like competitive, right? And like, but hip hop now is pop culture, you know, because it's so big. How did it get there? Is because it eventually became an industry that there's just so much like commerce that surrounds everything that's, you know, hip hop and whatnot. And like, but if it weren't for a Jay-Z to a Nas to a Biggie and a Tupac, to people who have had beef, but like all of them are a part of this industry. So the more there are you know, this rapper, that rapper, whoever, it creates this industry. So there's just more to go around, right? Like, because like you said, it's not this limited amount of success or money. It's just, it's out there. If there's an appetite for it, people are going to love it and people are going to want it. But so the reason I say something like something that's brand new, because I would say in the entertainment industry or that realm, dance is probably at the very bottom of that barrel in terms of like, what is this, you know, if you want to get in the entertainment industry, what industry would you want to get into? Rarely people be like, oh, I want to dance, you know, and people, I want to act, I want to sing, whatever, right? And there's so much competition even within our space too. And I think, you know, within Kinjaz, something that I have seen in literally everybody here, and it helps that maybe a lot of us kind of are in our older years too, where that, you know, that ego of like, I'm the best on the block kind of thing is not so prevalent anymore. But we realize like, yo, dude, we really do believe that, one, we're a product of a community that was very grassroots. Like we all came from these like homegrown teams where there was no money that we were getting paid to dance. It was just because we loved to do it. And then, you know, things like media, you know, ABDCs to World of Dances and all that give a platform where these homegrown crews can get out into the masses and be like, whoa, like that's really cool. And so the industry kind of starts. And so, you know, now that we're here doing what we're doing, we still want to push that, like, yo, there's so much to go around.
Yeah.
And we want to pull the kid up with us. We want to pull the individual, pull other groups up with us too. Like, if we're shining, you guys should be shining too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the thing about like mentoring too, that I love, is that you need to seek that mentor. You need to be that annoying kid to be like, hey, can I take you out to lunch? No. How about tomorrow? No, not then. How about the next day? Like, eventually the dude's gonna be like, all right, man, let's go get some lunch or whatever. But I think it takes that kind of that persistence and that ambition. Sure, tact is important. Everybody listening, you gotta have that tact. But you know, at the end of the day, man, I think when you meet those right people that see that spark in you, and that see like, yo, dude, I love your, I can't knock your hustle, man. I can't knock your persistence. So let's go. Man, I think that's really cool that you personally have that as well.
But you know what you just mentioned also is like, what makes us think that like we're owed a mentor?
Sure.
That's the other thing. That's why I think like searching for the mentor, that's our job in our, in our discipline, you know, like that's our job, because if we want to get better, we have to learn from people who are good. Doesn't mean like they owe us anything. They don't owe us anything. I don't like go to, and that's why I'm not angry or bitter, like that it's been hard, because they don't owe me anything. I didn't do anything for them. Like, we're not related, you know, like, but, so it's my job to like seek them, you know, and also, but then, you know, it's all like, you know, I did, this signing thing. I was in like Sweden, and like, I asked this actor, Michael Ironside, he was in like the original Top Gun. He was in like, he's been in tons of movies, man, you know? And obviously he's an OG. And I asked him like, yo, so and he took me out because we were just hanging out, but like we're eating, and I was like, hey, so, you know, like, can I just ask you a question? Like, how do I get better at acting? Like how, like, you know, I take the classes, I put the work in, but like, how do I get that extra? And he was just like, How many Jack Lemmon films have you seen? None. How many Paul Newman films have you seen? I don't know, a few. Like Cool Hand Luke, I don't know. Like how many, you know, Brando films? How many, you know, Houston films? How many films have you seen of like the old school people? I'm like, well, not too many. He's like, well, dude, if you ask like Kobe right now, you asked him like what was the stats of like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I bet you he'd know. Like if you ask like you know, I don't know, Barry Bonds or whoever, like the baseball player is, like what's Darryl Strawberry's like RBI, like, you know, Canseco, like he would know. Because they study their craft, and they study who everybody that came before him. And I was like, damn, I never thought of it that way. And it's also like my job to acknowledge the people who came before me. So if I'm asking, I gotta come correct. So if I'm asking a mentor, I can't just be like, because I see them out. I gotta come correct and be like, I studied all your work. This is what I love it like, and I really want to learn this from you specifically. Dude, if like some kid came up to me and like was like that, I'd be like, all right, well, I don't got time right now, like, but maybe like, you know, we can get some lunch or whatever. And he comes back, and after a while, I'm like, all right, fuck, okay, like, what do you want, you know? But you know, I don't think it's enough, you know, just like what you're saying about, you know, when I ask like, why, I think like the biggest thing I think that determines successful and unsuccessful people is just critical thinking, man. Just like think about what you're doing. Like, yes, doing the motions is great, and that will get you the foundation. But to get to that next level, if I'm gonna go to a mentor and I'm just like, yo, can you just help me? But like, get the fuck out of here, you know? Like,
help you with what?
What? Yeah, exactly. But like, if you come correct and you're persistent, like how, after a while, how can they say no? Yeah, and I think that critical thinking part is the part that a lot of people because it takes extra effort.
Yeah.
People don't want to do that.
Yeah.
you know,
working sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it, man. So I mean, having just the career that you've had, dude, and probably just the lessons that you've learned, things that you've seen and experienced, like, how would you define success in context to just everything that you know now?
You know, I think I was already successful from day one because I was doing what I wanted to do and I was accomplishing goals. I think I'm just getting started, man. Like, I got so much to do. There's so many stories to tell. Like, I'm just getting started. And if I were to be like, oh, I'm over the hill and I'm starting to get, then I'm done.
Yeah.
And success for me is not like, again, it's not a destination. It's a life, just a life. It's a journey of life. It's the process, like we're saying, rather than like, if I get this, you know, I'm gonna work till I die. I can get into this so I could retire and like, I don't know, like retire and like have my fucking coconut stand or some shit, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's like, I never need to do that. Like, I'll be doing it in some form,
Right.
you know, even if I'm just teaching. And if it's a lifelong journey, it's a lifelong passion, like, the success isn't like, it's not even something I'm yearning for. It's just as I go, like, I just set these goals and like, I'm like, okay, done. But I'm, you know how they say like, marksmen, when they shoot, they don't shoot at the target, they shoot through the target. When you punch through. Like, if you really want to punch, you don't just punch the, you know, you punch all the way through. And that's how I think about like everything I do is like, dude, I'm not like, I finished this, I'm already working on the next thing. Because I'm not like, oh, I can sit back now. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it really goes back to what is the purpose? What is the agenda? What gets you out of bed that's bigger than yourself? And I've figured out that for myself. So it's not about, oh, this project, if it does this, that's all important because that's how we eat and how we can measure how we're doing at the moment.
Sure.
But bro, like, I made Gook and like, it was black and white. Everybody's like, why are you making black? Like, no one wants to watch a black and white film in 2017, 16. Yo, there's no white people in it. Like, how are you going to sell it? Why don't you put a rapper in it? I want to put a rapper in it. Then who's going to watch it? Like, you know, like, you know, you're going to hire this girl from South Central that nobody knows. Like, you know, you're going to act in it. Like, you shouldn't be in it. You know, there's so many, but it wasn't about like, oh, if I do this, it's going to be successful.
Right.
Because that was like, if I was aiming for that, it wouldn't have been what it was. But that's the agenda part. Is I have a purpose and agenda that went beyond just making something that people just think is cool and enjoy. Like, there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Even behind the story, you know, there's always like, I totally know that you guys have it, man. It's like, what is a fucking Trojan horse? How do you sneak the medicine? Art is the ultimate Trojan horse. You dance, you sing, but what are you saying to the world? What's your actual message? You know, with film, it's much more, can be much more artistic and whatever, but like, as artists, I mean, I think that's like the bigger sort of picture thing that makes it all worth it later on. And, you know, then you're not like focused on like, you're also not focused on other people. Because you're just in competition with yourself. Because it's your purpose. Yeah, you know, I'm just trying to just push. It's not like some numerical value.
Yeah.
5 movies, 10 movies, 20
Yeah.
movies. No, it's just like when I'm done, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And what I love about your organization is like what you were saying, try and pull people up. And the thing I love about Kinjaz and this philosophy is I watch you guys move, I watch you guys Instagram, and it's like a brotherhood, sisterhood, you know, like, and that community that's around it, like, I feel the love. And when I watch that, it's so uplifting. And I think it just sends this like dope message that maybe the other, you know, some other people aren't.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. And when I see you guys, you know, you're like the latest show you guys were on, the energy was just different. I think the energy was just different because what it looked like to me was like, yeah, it's cool to win and stuff, but it looked like you guys were just like, it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
You guys were just there. You guys are there because, first of all, you can be. And number 2, like, it's an obvious that like you guys are a force. But like seeing you guys on stage, it was like, yeah, the whole brotherhood thing is like you can feel that. And I think that's the thing is like, we all know fakers.
Yeah.
We all know the fake ass people who are doing this for whatever vain reason, whatever, and we're all vain. But the people who are a little bit extra fake, we know. And I don't know, not all, but like 95% of the time, if we sit down with that person, we talk, we know there's something empty there.
Totally.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, dude. You're speaking truth, man. You're speaking a whole lot of truth. Yeah, dude, like without getting too much into it, bro, like, yeah, from the World of Dance experience to literally, I mean, that was already over a year ago. I can't believe that, like how fast time has gone, but like, yeah, like we've come a long way, not in the sense of like, oh, we've done so many more gigs and so many bigger placements, but more of like, yo, we've grown so much, even from those. I mean, being on a TV show, like I'm sure like you can attest to just being on any sort of project for like any given amount of time, it takes a toll on you. You know what I mean? From emotionally to physically to, you know, could even make you reconsider like, yo, like what are we really doing this for, right? You know, and so we went through a whole bunch of that. And like, you know, sure, there's a lot of cool projects in the pipeline, but just the other day, literally, like we kind of like posseed up to just talk and be like, how's everybody doing? You know, like, is everybody good? You know, and like, because we're about to enter 2019 real soon, and there's all this stuff that's happening, but like, it's none of it's worth it if this is not good, you know. And I love that we always circle back to that because truthfully, again, maybe because we're all just grown men now that are like, what are we wasting our time doing this dance thing for if this is not feeding something more than just like putting money in my bank account here and there? Like, it has to be for a bigger purpose, and I think that bigger purpose is something that keeps this thing alive. And so one, it's really encouraging that it reads in that way, even to the people that are kind of following and stuff, because that's a real thing.
You know what really cool is like, you see like you guys do the NFL gig and all that stuff, and it's just like, what's really cool is like, I'm like, yeah, of course they're doing that. That's how I feel now when I see whatever you guys are doing. I'm like, I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool is I think we've kind of turned a corner while I'm watching you guys, and it's just like, of course they're doing that. Yeah, well, why not?
Word. That's tight.
Yeah, but then it's like, for everybody watching you guys, are like, oh fuck, it's possible. Oh shit, it's possible.
Yeah.
Then the hope is like, well, what are they gonna do? But like, shit, man, you know, especially your personal journey, like, you know, from where you were and now this, and like, you know, it's just like, you just keep pushing.
Yeah.
You guys are still pushing.
Yeah.
It's just like I am, you know, like, we're all just continue to push, you know, like, yeah, and like, you know, I think we all ask ourselves like, yeah, why the fuck are we doing this? But but what then?
Yeah, man. Life is always gonna happen, and it's either you give into it and you toss in the towel, or you get hit, get knocked down, get back up, and then ask for help. Like, man, I can't do this alone. Like, I need help, and it takes a level of humility and willingness to be vulnerable to even seek that kind of help out. And I mean, I'm sure from yourself to the people who have helped you out along the way to the people that like you really cling to as far as mentors and friends, family, all that. Like, it's so important to keep that community around you, because one, we're not designed to live this life on an island. You know what I'm saying? We're not meant to be isolated. We need community. We need people to support us, to teach us, to check us, when we're like, when we're like flying off the handles, so all that's really, really good, man. It's really good. Dude, so what's going on now, dude? Like, what are the current things that you're working on? What are you excited about?
So Miss Purple, we're doing post-production on it now. I think it's a beautiful film. I mean, I'm biased. It's my film, but like, I think
I trust you.
Yeah, but I think I made something special.
Sick.
And I have a project with this company called Macro. They did Denzel's last 2 movies. They also did like Sorry to Bother You. And
great
like,
film.
Mudbound.
Yeah,
they kill it, and I love their philosophy, their company philosophy. They're like totally like, about diversity and diverse voices. So like, I have a project with them. Hopefully shoot next year. I'm up for a few projects to direct. And then I did that film with Wayne. I saw a cut of it. He did a great job. I'm so proud of it. That's the thing is like, me personally, like, I've been acting 17 years now, and I'm getting to a place where I want to do things that have meaning. So I'm doing less of the stuff that's just like about putting money in my pocket.
Sure.
It's so weird, man, because when I do that, I end up getting more opportunities to do the stuff that I wanted to be doing anyways. It's just like weird how that Jedi, like, it's just weird.
Yep.
But yeah, I continue. I just want to keep, I'm developing a TV show.
Sick.
But the other thing is like, that's just work.
Yeah.
I have a kid.
Yeah. Congrats. Man.
It's like,
Congrats.
There's like different things in your life. There's like health, work, spiritual, family. You're always trying to keep all of those afloat.
Yep. Balance.
One starts going down, you don't want one of them to die. So like, that's the other thing I'm starting to really focus on, is like, I'm so bad at it, but like, how do I stay balanced, man? Work is cool, and our lives revolve around it.
Yeah.
And we're so blessed to be doing things we love for work. I'm really trying to figure out how to balance things. It's hard for me, man. It's hard. Like, I always find myself, even with my family, like, oh, I'm busy, I'm working, I'm going to this and that, and like having to check myself, or my wife check me and be like, no, you have to, no. Like, I'm going on this vacation.
Yeah.
Well, my wife checked me. She's like, no, like, before you do all this other stuff, like, you got to take a week off. You have to.
Yeah.
It's not a choice. That's, and I have to cultivate that aspect of my life as well, but that's what's going on.
Love it, man. Well, congrats on your daughter. I mean, you said she's 10 months now.
Yeah,
man. I saw your Kickstarter video, and I love how she made the cameo in there, dude.
Oh, dude, I got used what I got.
That was my favorite part, dude. I was like, oh, I'm donating for sure now.
Thank you.
That was freaking good,
Thank
man.
you, yeah.
And yeah, dude, I just appreciate just every bit of what you're saying, dude. It's just all just real stuff, man. Yeah. Just saying, I appreciate you, bro. Like, I love these couch conversations. These are the ones that, like, you may have an agenda, what you think it might be, and then it ends up just taking a life of its own. And for this, man, it's just so good to just hear your story and how you approach, man. But if it's cool, man, we want to lightning round you a little bit.
Yeah,
let's fire off some just quick questions.
Cool. Yeah, this was kind of serious.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Serious is
it was
good.
Good serious.
I love serious. But yeah, it's, off the top of your head, you can, answer short. You could elaborate. It's up to you. but we're just gonna fire off some.
All right.
So here you go. Lightning round in 3, 2, 1. Worst role you've ever played.
Damn. I did a. Fuck. Dude, it's hard to like put it out there, you know. Oh, this is okay. This I could say like I did a series of T-Mobile commercials, and I was a part of it was like a pay-as-you-go thing, and I was a part of a poser mobile posse.
Yeah.
And like we tackle some dude in a bowling alley, and I go T-Mobile, or like I say, T-Mobile say you got to prepaid minutes, yo, and then he goes, but I just bought minutes, and I go, fees, shorty, fees. And then he's like, and then I go say something like 25 cents to connect, and like, it was just like the get like.
Wait, so you had like the accent and everything?
I did it just like that.
Oh
like
man,
this,
that's good.
I was like,
find that.
It's on YouTube.
I'll find it.
Worse.
We're gonna find it.
Worst.
Let's go. We talked about mentors. Dream mentor.
Dream mentor. Right now, Japanese director Koreeda.
Ooh.
Okay. Favorite director of all time?
Damn. Dude. This is impossible. Krzysztof Kieslowski. He's a Polish guy.
Whoa.
He did the Color series. Or Wong Kar-wai.
Sick.
You talked about like finding that actor or actress. Like, who would you like to work with?
Bobby Lee.
Bobby Lee.
Dude, that
Hell
dude is
yeah.
that dude is so damn funny.
Hell yeah.
He is a funny ass dude.
Yeah, dude, I love Bobby Lee.
He's unpredictable too, man.
Dead or alive, who would you love to sit down and just have a cup of coffee with?
Genghis Khan.
Wow. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that room.
Dude, that dude was scary and crazy.
And you'd want to sit and have coffee with him.
I just like if he wasn't gonna kill me.
Oh yeah.
Just to
for
just
sure.
to see what the whole deal was, man.
For sure.
Whoa.
For sure.
And you said you did like extra work for like 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite extra project that you worked on? It's probably Central Casting, huh?
Yeah, like a bunch of them, but God, dude, there's so many bad ones, man.
It's always the bad ones that come to mind. It's like, I don't want to talk about that one.
Oh, no. Worse than that, I got tricked. So remember I used to have my stores, the attic and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I had them, like our PR guy was like, yo, Edison, like electricity, like Edison Power Company wants to do something that'll showcase the store or whatever. So I came by and like, they're like gonna shoot this thing, whatever. I'm like, yeah. And then like I was like, wait, what? Like, so there's all these ad people in my store,
Yeah,
and whatever, and they're just telling me what to do, and it was like really like, I was like, wait, hold up, man, like what is this? And like, and then like I saw the commercial, and it was like just an Edison commercial, man. They never mentioned the store, and I was basically like a commercial actor that never got paid.
Whoa!
They just use your store as a location
for free.
Oh, crazy!
And I didn't get paid.
What?
And it was all over the internet, and like my friends were like, bro, you doing like commercials now? And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Dude, so I looked it up. I was like, damn, I got tricked.
Yo, that's
it was so shady. Fuck them, man. I'm so pissed, man.
Hey, I think you have a right to be, bro. They pulled the biggest fast one on you.
Imagine if like some Edison wanted to do something at Kinjaz Dojo and was like, "Yo, we're gonna feature your brand," blah, blah, and it was just they just used your dancing and like they didn't say who you were, they didn't show your logo, nothing.
Yeah, wow.
You would kill them, dude.
Yeah. Wow, shame on you guys. Shame on Edison. That's freaking. That's
to lighten it up. Favorite food.
Favorite food. Ramen, spaghetti, steak.
Hell yeah.
Damn, hot pot. Oh yeah. Damn, I love hot pot.
Forget hot pot. Will we ever see a BGA follow-up project?
I hope so.
Hell yeah.
I hope so. I think Ryan's always working on something, so like I hope so. But it's on him, man.
Yeah.
If you want a BGA project, hit him up on Twitter.
Hey, we all want a BGA project. Justin's a K-pop star on the side, man. You get twisted, dude.
Oh damn.
What is your biggest fear?
Being a bad dad. These days it's that. It's like having regrets about like whatever I did with my time now, and like looking back and being like I should have spent more time with my daughter. Can't buy time, man.
For sure. On that tip, like biggest accomplishment.
Making a baby.
Yeah. I figured that
That's
was
a pretty
coming.
good one.
Yeah. But you know, beyond that, I think biggest accomplishment I think is just I do think it's Gook, man. Because it really was. I mean, I made a film before Gook, but Gook, I think like I really trusted myself.
Yeah.
And I was able to see, along with people around me, what is possible if we really just go for it. And like uncompromising, man. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gook was freaking sick, man. You got one, Mike?
Favorite indie film of all time.
Indie film.
You can say Gook.
Gook. I will say this, man. In junior high, it's not an indie film, but I watched Dumb and Dumber in the theater 7 times.
Oh my gosh.
dang.
In the theater.
Bro.
Did you too?
Not in the theater. I mean, I saw it in the theater the first time, and then like I just had it on video. I think that was probably the most watched movie in my whole life. Like I can quote that entire.
Me
freaking
too.
movie, bro.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
That and then,
Genius.
but in elementary school, I think I watched Home Alone like a million
Same.
times.
dude, I've seen it.
Same, and that's always on rotation in the holidays at my
Yeah,
house. I
yeah.
gotta put on Home Alone. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not Thanksgiving or Christmas without Home Alone.
I would, remember when he puts his head through the doggy door? He's like,
Yeah.
"Hello."
Oh yeah.
I would rewind that part so many times. It's like that part was all like
Yeah.
staticky.
It's like
Yeah.
warped.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking good.
Oh damn.
So we have this thing less of, more of.
Okay.
So what would you love to see people do less of, and what would you want to see people do more of?
Okay. Less of is more of, I wish people were more open, more honest, more communicative, even if it's not necessarily comfortable on both sides. Because at least there's an opportunity there to either rectify things or for it to be worked out, or for there to be an understanding. Less of, I think, is always like a really like an idealistic kind of thing, but I don't know, like just less of just being ugly to each other. I think I was a pretty toxic dude for a long time. I think I was pretty hateful. I think I was pretty angry. I think I was pretty, like competitive and pretty like had a lot of jealousy and stuff. But really, it was only hurting myself. And I think less of all that shit, it makes me happier, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's freaking good, man. Dude, Justin, man, it's been really good chatting it up, man. And I think again, like my favorite conversations are the ones that just kind of take a life of its own. And I think something that really comes across so clear coming from even just hearing your answers to the less of, more of, and yo, man, you've been through life, bro. You've experienced success, failure, disappointments, celebrations, all that, and that's life. It's gonna always be this roller coaster of up and down, but it's very easy to get jaded by everything and live in that space where it's so easy to live in a space where you're fooling yourself, you know, and it's so it's not easy to get out of that. So for you to even be so vulnerable and transparent to even talk about some of those dark periods where you felt like, you know, you may have been living sort of a toxic lifestyle, to recognizing that and figuring out ways to get out of it. And from the way that you talk, man, it seems like you do it well, where you're patient with your own process, because nothing worthwhile comes overnight, and nothing really important to grow or change will happen overnight either. Like you gotta just, man, like let the process happen, and you have to just kind of sit with it and be patient. And so dude, that's really inspiring by itself. Like, forget all the, you know, the work stuff. Like you said, the work stuff is work. You know, we pay our bills, but at the end of the day, man, we're all human beings. And I love just your approach on all of that, man. It's really encouraging to see. And but yeah, dude, with all the moves that you're making, you know, the projects that you've done to the ones that you're working on, man, like super stoked for all that stuff.
Thank you.
You always got Kinjaz support, man. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, it's so important for us to celebrate each other, even, you know, from different industries, you know what I mean? We all kind of run in our own lanes, but everything feeds each other, you know. And I think it's so great to be able to support and throw eyes on things that maybe one audience may not be looking at, but, you know, like you definitely got that from us. Where can people follow you, like your journey, you know, social media?
Mostly Instagram. You know, Twitter is just my name, Justin Chon, and then Instagram is my name, Justin Chon. But I post the most on Instagram. It's like it's hard to keep up.
I get it.
It's like a job.
It's a straight up job, dude.
Like, I'm just like, you know,
social media is a freaking full-time job.
Yeah, man. You know, man, love what you guys do. You know, my favorite dude is Lawrence.
Hey, shout out Lawrence,
bro.
Lawrence,
like that dude is like so the real one.
Yep.
He's just so supportive, such a good homie. You know, he's always like such a great like supporter, cheerleader. So I want nothing but the best for him, and I know he's a part of you guys' organization. And like even just the way he reps you guys, it just says so much about the org, you know. But like I love that dude.
Yeah, Lawrence he's doing it, man. I'm just waiting for that. I feel like he's just right there. I mean, he's already done amazing freaking work.
That was the thing though, like ever since I met the dude, like I was like, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, totally.
It was like not even, you know, everything he's doing and he's going to do is not even like a surprise. Speaking of Instagram, I always see him do his like little like dance diaries.
Those are the best, dude.
I'm like, best. Dude, you do it, man, with the bare feet and shit, like you know, like on your hardwood floor or whatever, like on your rug. Cool, man. Yeah. Or like he's like in San Diego, like fucking on carpet, but still barefoot.
Yep.
You know. Yeah, I love that shit.
Lawrence is a freaking real one, man. He's I mean, dude, I always say, yo, you're my favorite Asian actor, but I'm like, yo, don't let anybody sleep on his dancing, because that's how we started. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you know, he was on Kappa Modern with Mike and I, and like, it's crazy and to see that he's just running at this whole thing with not only acting, but he's also starting to write and, you know, wants to get into that whole too. So we're just waiting, because, you know, we got, you know, plans for some sort of a Kinjaz movie somewhere down the line. Like, it's just like you said, it's a matter of time. When it's supposed to happen, it's gonna happen. So, but yeah, man, dude, thanks for coming through, man. Thanks for chatting it up with us. And yeah, man. So, Mike, you wanna send us home?
Yeah. Full show notes will be in the description below, but don't forget to check us out at kinjaz.com/podcast. Follow us on all social media handles. That's Kinjaz PodKast with a K. And don't forget to go on iTunes and leave us that review and a 5-star rating.
Sweet. Look at that radio voice, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, legit.
Thanks for watching and or listening, guys. Till next time. Peace out.
Peace.
Ginger Bride.